always want to talk a good game, but most fall short on that action. I mean, Chan has Malia's whole life bugged, but wants to diss other men about going about relationships the wrong way. This scene was laughable, but it was also a great depiction of how some men are. Do you know men like this? I don't know anybody who's out personally bugging people because I wouldn't be dealing with them. But yeah, I do feel like Chan was talking a good game. He was really laying it out there about like what people really shouldn't be doing or what they should be doing. It's like, sir, you've got this woman bugged, and then you're acting like you're just casually, finding her in random spots where you know where to find her at. You're not going about things the way that you said that you should be. So a little bit of a hypocrite because you're talking about someone they're leading with their wallets, and maybe Chan's not leading the relationship with what he can do for her, but he's leading the relationship in terms of financially. He's able to hire people to do things to track her. That's leading in a certain way. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely have had encounters or know a few acquaintances that they do talk a good game. That's all they are talk. And then, you see that they don't live up to all them standards that, they have of other men or even the standards that they have for other women. And those people I can't stand the most are they're so on top of what they feel everybody else should be doing, but then they fall short on all those things
Talk about
too.
it.
It's like, make it
And you
make
have no
sense.
grace for nobody
Are
else.
you exactly? Are you doing any of those things that you're requiring from somebody else?
Yeah.
So I definitely felt Chan was a bit hypocritical,
Very.
in that way, but he's also got a lot to hide and cover up at this point.
Uh-huh.
So
I think two-faced people usually are very hypocritical, because they spend so much time trying to expose other people and their flaws that they don't realize that by them working a second job, what I'm saying, dry hating off you, that they're really revealing to everybody else just who you are. And I've had situations like that. I had somebody say to me, nobody is as honest as you. And I'm like, what do you mean as honest as me? And this chick was just like, you come off as like an open book, but I feel like you're hiding stuff. And I'm like, well, what would I be hiding? Ma'am? Ma'am. What?
tell me more.
Am I a bank robber? And she was just like, nobody's happy like this. And I feel like you say bad things, in private time. And I'm like, oh, you think I have a bad day? Oh, guess what? I do have some bad days. Um, but no, you have people who, like Chan is working very hard to know everything or to possibly expose anything that he may need to know. And he's talking about how these men are just, they're looking for desperate women. But Malia's in a very desperate situation. I mean, at one point, she turns her whole back to him. Like, if you don't just get up out of here talking to me, I'm on my second glass of wine. Ain't nobody got time to be listening to what you talking about. And he gonna turn the bar stool around. Sir, get off my chair. Like, respect my boundaries. I gave you my back for a reason. Okay. And why are you trying to make me, engage? I don't want to engage with you right now. I want to be upset. Like, so I feel like she's very vulnerable, and I don't even blame her. Bless you, love. I don't blame her for being vulnerable. And I think that like some people can be like, oh, Malia just wants to be in a relationship so bad she's depressed. I don't think the relationship aspect of it is like number one priority. Like, it's something nice to have. She's got a lot of other bigger problems happening in her life. She's got a lot of stuff going on. Um, there's a scene that's going to be coming on, later on where she's sitting with her sister talking, and everybody's talking about like her sister's wedding, and she kind of is like, okay, I'm leaving the conversation because she knew at some point her grandmother was going to turn that situation around on her. Like, and so why aren't you married yet? Because I haven't found anybody who's worthy of all this. Next question. Can I have another glass of wine, please? You know what I mean? And it's like she's talking about the wedding and her Valentino dress, and her sister is just super excited, and she wants to be like happy for her. But I looked at that and I was like, I bet she's a little bit mad too. Like, not at the sister, but at the dad, because you out here buying Valentino dresses, and my money came like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm paying for this wedding that y'all out here stunting about, like talking about all this expensive stuff and how much money is being spent. It's like a huge chunk of money, six figures.
Dad ain't even brought Malia no bouquet of flowers. Like nothing. No
That's
apology letter, nothing.
right. I'm like 6 figures came up missing about her bank account. We ain't talking about somebody stole 5,000. 6 figures is missing, And so I feel like she's got a lot of different things going on. She's got Mike the harasser. And again, with the harasser, baby, Prince Michael, has shown up on the scene. And with his position, like we talked about last week with his position, he can be very dangerous. You know what I mean? Like he knows people in law enforcement. He's an assistant district attorney. He can use his title and his power for bad. And people say, "Oh no, you can't do that." People are doing stuff every day. People are taking advantage of information and power, and they exploit other people. And it's like, I bet she is somewhere just thinking, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Like, I bet you she does wish that can get some wings like an eagle and mount up and fly away, like the Bible talks about. Like, God, you gonna rescue me? She just got a lot of stuff happening right now, and so yeah, she's coming off as very vulnerable. I don't want to say weak because I don't think she's weak. I think Malia is very strong to continue on going through the things she's been going through, but she's very vulnerable. She's very hurt, and I think a big part of her can't even really trust her family right now. You know what I mean? Because nobody's riding for my girl. Nobody's standing up for her. Nobody's checking Frank. Nobody's like, yo, like we need to chill out on this wedding stuff. We just spending money that we know came from Malia's boutique. Like Malia got robbed, and we just out here like she would want her sister to have this wedding. Yeah, she would want her to have those orchids. She would want her to have that violinist. She would want it. I want you to have those things. I want it on your dime, not on my dime.
No,
So
I don't want you to have any of that. No.
if you can pay for it, you can have it. If you can't pay for it, I don't think you need to have it.
You
I
don't
think
need any of it.
you need to back up off of that. So I definitely feel like Malia was just going through a lot, and to be honest, Chan is capitalizing off of that. I think Malia is hurt. She is broken in a lot of ways. And I feel like she's trying. She is really, really trying. Even her going out tonight for this speed dating thing with Eva, like she's being a good sport. Like she really is trying not to allow herself to sink in despair. It is super easy to be like, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I don't trust nobody. I don't really like a lot of people right now either. Like it's easy to just cut yourself off from the world. But you see, she's still trying to show up for her friends.
You know,
And Eva, go
the
ahead.
way you just worded that, I feel differently about Chan now. Because I'm like, he is really preying on Malia. He is a
Yeah,
whole predator. And
he
he's
is.
using it to his advantage.
Oh yeah, it's working for him too. You know what I mean? And that's what people do. Um, yeah, relationships can be crazy because it does. And it's like, but I guess I don't expect anything better from him being a member of organized crime. Like they're always
Right.
exploiting some type of detail of somebody's life to
Right.
get what they want, and he's doing that here with her. So I feel like Malia is definitely trying to show up. She's like, Eva doesn't ask me for anything. She's been amazing. She's come through for the business, and she's asked me to do one little thing. I could at least oblige her with that. Even with Antonio, she showed up to the club opening for him. He's not a person who's asking for a whole lot, and she's still trying to actively be there for her family and her friends. And she does feel sad. She does feel hurt. And yeah, I feel like Chan was talking a really good game. And I do know people like that who talk the biggest game, but maybe can't walk that line. And I'm like, just shut up. Just say, I aspire to be that man. I aspire to be that woman who does A, B, and C. But I hate people who sit back on this high and mighty kick and they're like, no, because what you should be doing and what people should be doing. Blah, blah, blah. And I haven't seen you do any of what you're talking about.
Right.
You talking about somebody that stopped you and I couldn't because he said no, or and my wife said I couldn't start this and do this right now because excuses, excuses, excuses. Like that's all I'm hearing from you. You know what I mean? People do a lovely job of talking themselves up and making excuses for themselves. Walk the walk. And again, you may not even be exactly where you want to be. You be like, I aspire to be this woman. I aspire to be that kind of man and have those types of values one day at a time, one day at a time. You're your work in progress. But just don't be hypocritical or downing other people because they're not where you think they ought to be because you ain't where you need to be. I know I'm not. Yeah. Next question.
Malia didn't seem to question Chan's background knowledge about Noah. That would have alarmed me. Does this scene speak to Malia's naive nature? Yeah, absolutely. I 100% think I thought the same thing, because I was just like, for Chan to give this whole rundown about Noah, like, I would have been like, sir, how did you
Yeah,
know
how
that?
do you know that? Who are you talking
And
to?
I'm like, that would have been the first thing to come out of my mouth after, Noah picked himself off the floor and walked away, you know? And like, and then it would make you think, like, well, how much do you know about me? Like, we need to have a conversation, Chan.
Right.
You
I
know,
definitely was wondering that too when I was reading it. I'm like, are you going to ask him at some point? Like, how you know? You know, because and I'm gonna be real, like some people when they have lots of money, they have everybody in their little area that they have ever connected with, they have them kind of like profiles of people. And I don't know why people who are wealthy do that. I guess maybe they are on some level or trying to protect themselves against people who would try to, misuse them or use that information later on for some other weird thing. Like we've talked about that even on the show You. I'm like, what is he doing? He's around all these socialites and all these people. This is what they do. They dig into other people's lives and they use it against them later on. They expose people, right? Maybe just being rich, maybe they're bored or something. I don't know, right? So I'm like, yeah, how do you know all this stuff about this man having a fiance? Like, how do you know that? And yeah, Malia didn't even ask. She was just like, you got a wife? And he was just like, or, soon to be wife. And he was like, how do you know Samantha or Sam or whatever? And it's like, he confirmed that, yeah, Chan was telling the truth. But I would be like, so, like, how do you know this information? So, yeah, I definitely spoke to Malia being a little naive. And I, like you had said earlier, just the way we were always, raised to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. My mom would always say, "You trust the person until they prove that they're untrustworthy." Yeah, that didn't really get me very far with a lot of people because I was too trusting. And so now it's like I go into every situation and it's like I meet people and I fill out a vibe and I'm just like it's okay to have curious suspicions or I'm not even curious. I don't care. I would say a healthy suspicion, like just wanting to make sure that you're not going into things being some Bambi. The world is so wonderful. Like, here comes a Disney, song. No, it's not. Like there are people out there who are just not who they say that they are, and you have to be prepared for that. And trust is earned. You can say what you want to say, but you have to earn trust. And we weren't taught that. It was just always like, just trust people, be forgiving. My ideas on some of those things have definitely changed because you can't forgive people when they don't want to be forgiven, when they're not sorry. Yeah, Malia was definitely a little bit naive. And I get it, you know. And you're raised around people who tell you to constantly look for the best in people, and you do. And then you find that you get burned.
and for Chan to have that information so fast, like, didn't he just get there? Supposedly, Malia, like, she didn't think of anything. Like, you just got here. You don't even know. How do you even know his name?
Yeah,
Like,
because yeah.
how do you have a whole research background on this man that you've never met?
Yeah. What's helping you? Are you getting are you have a voice talking to you too?
Right? You have a bug in. You have something in your ear.
Like,
Like, somebody talking to you right now.
somebody's giving him the game, baby. Somebody over there dropping knowledge on him.
And I'm
So
like,
yeah,
nah,
that's
you
just
don't need my number. We good.
nah, we good. No, Chan ain't taking no for an answer. You look up and your tire been blow out on
Yeah,
I-84.
right.
He went, girl, he gonna catch you slipping on I-5. Do you need some help? I just happened to drop by. He's not. And that's the thing. It's like dangerous with people like that when it's like in movie settings, the handsome guy who's a stalker is like, oh, but girl, in real life, that's not a flex because you don't know how far a person's willing to go to keep certain holds on you. Okay, so you've stalked me to death, right? And I'm yours, and we're together now. But how far does it go? Like, do you start sabotaging my relationships with my friends and family? Like,
Yeah,
do I
because
start
once they
dressing
get their
different?
sights, once they get their sights on you, it's like
What
you don't
happens?
know which way that's going to go. Even if you politely decline, they're still locked in. They don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah. It's like, what if I decide I don't want you anymore, and this isn't working out, and we just aren't really compatible? How? am I gonna come up missing? Like, what happens? Do
Yes.
my animals start coming up missing? Like, somebody killed the cat. Like, oh God, like I'm devastated. Like, I want to know, So people who are stalkers, that stuff doesn't usually end very well. Like, and I'd be into all my little stalking shows on Hulu from the IG, ID channel, and I'd be like, 99.9% of the time, these stalking things do not work out. See, because Lifetime, going back to them, they always had it where the woman would boss up at the end and fight, fight him back, and she would run for her life, and the police would show up, and she was rescued, and he goes to jail, or she has to kill him. But it always worked out for her. In real life, those situations are not working out for a lot of women,
Right.
And then the police and the prosecutor's office, they give such minimal time. I was watching an episode a couple days ago of this show, and this man had been stalking all of these women, and baby, he was getting physical. Like, he raped one woman, he beat another woman up because she just was like ignoring all his advances, and they gave him 3 years in prison for rape and assaulting women and breaking and entering. And I'm like, whoa, 3 years?
Wow.
And you didn't stalk like 3 or 4 women? 3 years, huh? Okay, well, let me do the job that the cops didn't do.
There you go.
Hmm. So, I have the next question. It says, the book said Chan hated to see another man put his hands on his property. Why are women viewed as a man's belongings? Come on here, instead of his mate and his partner. I'll let you go first before I go in.
I mean, I think that really lies within history. We have been men's property at one point of history. You know, um, Yeah, I mean that pretty much to me it pretty much sums it up, and that's been passed down, and even some men today, their fathers never taught them that, but they've read it somewhere or heard about it somewhere, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds good to me, and yeah, you feel like a woman is you're supposed to get a woman, and then she's supposed to just do everything for you, cook, clean, bend over, have your kids, and that's all she's good for,
Yeah.
and but that's the notion that I don't I don't know if it was yeah. And does it come from the Bible? Because Eve was taken from Adam's rib and given as a helpmate. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
help mate.
I
A
don't know
mate,
if it's
not a servant, not a
and
slave.
yeah, people will take that and just, make it into their narrative of how they want things to
Oh,
go.
people definitely.
Because it's
People
a
help me.
helpmate, not a slave.
Yeah, people. I feel like people have taken the Bible and they've misquoted or misinterpreted, and they've done it on purpose.
Yep. To fit
My
their
dad,
agenda.
my dad used to always throw that Bible scripture in my mom's face, and you submit to me, and the Bible says. Why do you need the Bible to hide behind? I just want to throw that out there as well. Why do you need to hide behind the Bible? Well, the Bible says so. You feel like the Bible gives you authority over me? No, the Bible gives you authority over you. The Bible doesn't give you authority over me. I do what I want to do. God gave me free will. So if I choose to follow Him, great. If I choose not to, great. You know, it's my will, right? It's my free choice. My dad would always yell and scream, like, you submit to me, woman, and you submit. A woman is to submit. And so when I learned how to start reading, I went and found me some scriptures. And I read the passage under the part about submission where it talks about husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And that he gave his life for the church, and that you wouldn't do anything to hurt. And so when we talk about church, they wasn't talking about a physical location. They were talking about the people, the members of Christ, like the body of Christ, the people. So husbands, love your wife like Christ loves the people, because he died for the people's sins. Be willing to put your life on the line for your wife like Christ did for the body. You know what I'm saying? And so if you think about loving people the way Jesus loved them, he was he wasn't judgmental. He kicked it with Mary Magdalene, and people were like, some of the disciples were like, she's around again. Ugh. Like, they would be like, send her away. People don't think that, she out here with us. Like, oh, she's a prostitute. Like, there were scriptures where the disciples were kind of like trying to, front on her a little bit. Like, if she don't get her butt out of here. And Jesus be like, it's a homegirl. I'm saying, and he loved him some Mary Magdalene. He loved her as somebody, a member of the body of Christ, somebody like a sister in Christ. He loved her. He saw she made a transformation. She was doing better with her life. Like she was really on the right course, and he didn't use that against her. There were parts of the Bible where he talked about Jesus would sit around with the tax collectors. He would sit around with all these people, and the Pharisees would show up and be like, "Why do you hang out with those bad people?" And Jesus would be like, "Because if you're not sick, you have no need for a physician. I'm not going to the emergency room if I feel perfectly fine. Now, if I feel like my arm is broken or I'm having a heart attack, I'm going because I need to see a doctor, right?" So what Jesus was trying to explain to people, like, if you look down on these people, shouldn't they be hanging out with me? Shouldn't I be loving on them, showing them the love of God? Like in the Bible talks about like the agape love, brotherly love. I don't see a whole lot of people showing no brotherly love. I see a lot of people showing a lot of judgment and putting their mouth on people, and then they be like, talking about some touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Well, if that's the case, we all are God's chosen and his anointed. He's anointed you to do something. So keep your mouth off people, Felicia. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, my dad would do a lot of that, like, type of negative talk where he felt like he owned my mom, where he didn't have to be respectful of her. And yeah, a lot of women have been brought up feeling like you're somebody's slave. I don't like it. I don't like it, and I will never be made to feel that way. And I don't know when it was. It might have been the last 10 years of my marriage where I just had I had to check my husband. I had to be like, no, 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 sir. You're not gonna be like, and you're mine. Actually, I'm not. I actually belong to me. And he's like, what? What? Like you're my wife? I got paperwork on you. I said, give me that piece of paper. I'll tear it up in your face. And he was like, blasphemy. But I told him, I was like, who do you think you are? He's like, well, you're my wife. You got to listen to me. I told him, sir, I don't have to listen to nothing you say. And not tin. I listen to you because I respect you. I'm gonna call him the N word. Listen to you because I respect you, not because you own me. I am free to leave at any moment in time. If I don't want this no more, I can say I've had enough. I don't belong to you. I don't belong to anybody. I belong to myself and God. You know what I'm saying? I share my life with you. We have to be partners. We have to be mates. It's like I think that was a really great question because he seems to keep getting upset every time he sees somebody got their hands on Malia or they close to her. He's like, "That's my property." We got to stop with all this property stuff because when property decides that it wants to move on, that's when people get hurt because you think that you own something. You don't own a dang thing, and you run up on me, you're gonna get handled.
Our next question is, Chan stated that everyone was leading with their resume of accomplishments and their overinflated egos. It seems like this is how most people approach relationships these days. Is this becoming more of a problem?
Hmm.
I guess it's only a problem for people that have to deal with that, but yeah, I do think it's something that is definitely big going on out here. But also on the flip side of that, women, there's a lot of women asking for that. What that money look like,
Right.
and what can you do for me,
Right.
So men feel like that's what they have to start with. Not saying that they should do that, but that's definitely, how they feel like if they throw out all their best qualities, then they're going to snatch that cat up quicker than if they were a perfect gentleman and, hi, how are you doing, and are you reading any new books this week or whatever. They feel like that's the cornball approach.
You be the corn thing.
But I think it just depends on what type of man you're going after and what type of woman you're going after. Where those things are going to become an issue, but it's definitely something huge that we are definitely seeing in society right now.
I definitely think it's a huge problem um, because it's not authentic. Like you said, we're not really getting to know people. You're not like, what new books are you reading, or what new movie have you seen? Like, when you try to talk to somebody in that way, where it's like, you know, what do you got going on for Mother's Day with you and your family? Do you guys celebrate the holidays? Like, people look at you like, uh. I mean, I've had some women be like, even with me, because I'm not talking about some girl. Let's go to the club. Let's pop bottles. I'm not doing that with you. that's just not my personality. And so it comes across like it's not fun, like you're not a fun person. I mean, it depends on what you think is fun, but yeah, society is really toxic right now, and maybe they've always just been. Maybe it's just more so we see more of it because of social media every day. It's like everything's on repeat. There's a loop of foolishness. Yeah, we see these dudes acting like they got to be like the lions in the jungle, roaring the loudest to get the girl. And for a lot of women, they're like, "Oh, I heard the call." You know what I mean? And they're going out there to see what he's got going. But a lot of these people, again, they are just leading with the resumes. I got this. I got this. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's great that you have so much going on. That's great that you are so accomplished. But we can't have a conversation where it's just not about you. That gets old, you know? But a lot of people don't care because they're like, well, he gives me money. He keep my hair and my nails done. Girl, I could do that myself. Like you worried about the wrong stuff. You're worried about the flashy and the showiness of it. And then you get to a point where, yeah, okay, you know, you did all that barking and you caught the prey, but at this point, what else do you have to bring to the table besides the fact that, you know, I
It
have
gets
this
played
car?
out. It gets played out, and then you're
It
going to be
gets
bored
played out
of
really
your
fast.
desires. Hmm.
People aren't even connecting on a mental, spiritual, or emotional level. It's just, yeah, I got this car, I got this watch, you know what I'm saying? I'm out here heavy in these streets. You're like, okay, all right. And I think the thing is, I talk with people, you know, I don't even say nothing. I don't, I don't know, you know? I don't even say crap because it's like, what is there to say? Like, if you're not asking me these questions, I'm not going to just volunteer. Like we had a question that came up a couple days ago. We were talking about like, what could you tell somebody one thing about yourself that they don't know? And I was like, I don't know because I feel like I'm pretty, you know, open. And I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it. And I was just like, oh, I'm a student. You know, I'm working on my doctoral degree. It's not something I talk about a lot, but I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, because if people aren't asking you questions to engage, you won't know about them.
Right.
Too many people we're just in a zone where it's like, don't talk to me, show me, flash, flash, flash. But you know, we got to get past that because it's like, what happens when somebody's mom dies? What happens when somebody loses a relative or they lose their job? Can you even emotionally connect with me to help me get through that moment? Like, can you be of support? We don't know that about people because all we see is party time, baby. All we see is popping bottles on yachts. There's a lot of things that we need to be looking at for people, and it's got to be more than just he a hustler, he out here, he getting his paper. I respect him. I respect the man who's out here making moves. I do. I respect that. But what about your heart? Like, what do you want out of life past building your business? You're looking for a family. Like, you want to travel. Like, what are some you like? Who are you beyond this? What is your motivations? Like me and my girl, we talk all the time about like our goals and where we want to be at in life and how we want to move forward one day. Like we want to start a scholarship fund or we want to help people. Like we talk about a lot of what we're doing today. We want to build so that we can turn back around and go off into those communities that we've come from and be like, let's fix some of these things. Let's help these communities of, you know, who have going through these different things, single mothers or people of color, whatever it may be. Let's start setting up our own businesses and shops. Let's start giving out our own funds to help small businesses get a leg up because, you know, you go into the bank, they may look at you and like laugh and nah. Mm-mm. But what happens when you become the financer? Like that's what we talk about. We be talking about real stuff. How do we make a real impact? Like it's nice to be like, I want that house, I want that car. But once I get that, like, what do I want to do with my life? I want to make sure that my life is meaningful. And I want to make sure that I help as many people as I can. And you don't have to wait until you become super rich and famous to do it. What do you do right now in your personal life? How are you being a blessing to other people? You know what I mean? So just those types of things.
And I was thinking about while you were saying all that. A lot of people don't have an identity. They don't know who they are, so
Talk about it.
they tend to take on what society says I
Oh,
should be.
yes.
They look at the TV and they see what the men are doing on there. They see what the women are doing, and then they associate that
Mimic
with,
it.
well,
Yeah.
I'm a female. Maybe I should do that too. If I want to get a man, if I want to do this, I want to do that. And they're not sitting down and saying, who am I? who do I want to be? What are the values that I want to hold? What are the beliefs that I want to hold? And actually stand on those things for yourselves and decide, who do you want to be as an identity, as a person,
Yeah.
outside of everybody else. And, one thing that, I share about, we talk about a lot, is I appreciate, who you are as an individual. I can't go out into the world and find five other Karenas. You have a uniqueness, and that's what has always attracted me to you. And I've just always wanted, to be around you and stuff, because you have a uniqueness I can't find anywhere else. This is a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh,
And
you're so
that's what,
sweet.
that's what people should be. Like, everybody should be something different. It shouldn't be going out here and you see 10 of the same things,
Yeah.
all got the same bubble butt,
Yeah.
all got the same, this and that or whatever. And then when I come and talk to you, you're quoting. I don't listen to rap music, so it's hard for me.
I do.
City Girls, you're quoting City Girl, and
Right.
that's all that you have to say as
Yeah.
a dialogue. It's like, well, how do you feel about that? Well, Cardi B
Right.
said, well, how do you feel, Stacey?
Yeah.
We're talking about you,
Yeah.
So um, when you don't have a firm foundation in who you are as a person, and a belief system and a thought process of your own, you're
Yeah.
going to tend to take on other people, you know.
Hmm. And you said something, you said a lot of really good things there. Thank you for the love that you always give to me, because I really appreciate that. But you're always been that person I could go to and I could dream with, and I could have these, vivid, fantasies, with, and talk about the world and life, and about ways that we can, better help assist other people and be better people for our own society, for our own community. You can't do that with everybody. So yeah, I thank you that you feel that I am a once in a lifetime, opportunity or experience to have, because I feel that way with you. I feel like I'll talk about something, people are like, girl, you just be. I had one chick I was friends with years ago, and she'd be like, oh, you be thinking too deep. My mind ain't even going there. And I'd be like, okay, like if you like you hit the lotto tomorrow, what would you do? And she'd be like, buy me a house, car, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, well, past that, like, what would you do? I don't know. What would you do? I'd be like, I would, send people to school for free. I'd be paying off student loan debt. I'd be building houses, or, I'd build a whole, not a hotel, but I'd be like a hospital, or, I had all these ideas of things that I would like to do to, like, make other people's lives better for themselves. Because you think about, like, how are you going to be on your top notch game if mentally and emotionally and physically you're not at your best because you don't have health care? It's kind of hard to, like, you know keep a steady job if you don't even have enough money to afford your insulin. There are people dying because they cannot afford the cost of insulin, depending on what state you live in and what type of insurance is offered to you. There are people literally 27, 28 years old dying because they cannot get basic stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so I was just like, is it Mark? Yes, Mark Cuban. He started a pharmacy, and like all of the medicine at his pharmacy is like $40 or under, because he understands, like, he's in a position as a billionaire. He's like, people need affordable medicine, right? And maybe their insurance company is not going to pay for this drug, but if they can get their doctor to write them a prescription for it, they can come to my pharmacy online and pay their $40 and get what they need, so that you don't have to worry about dying because you can't afford the medicine. And I'm always so confused. Like, why aren't people talking more about what Mark Cuban is doing with his pharmacy? Like, why is it something that's being hidden when people need to know? A lot of people don't know, right? And so I'm like, well, so when I think about things like what I want to do to help make a difference, and again, you don't have to be a billionaire to make a difference. You can make a difference today. You can go volunteer somewhere. You can make sure that you look out for the people around you, right? Because you might need to babysit somebody's child so they can go to work, so they can have a job. Like, that makes a difference. But you've always been the person that I could go to, and we could just dream those dreams together. And that's very rare that you find people who care and have that heart. Me and you, just we get on the phone all day. We can just dream, like, I want to do this. I want to help these people. I want to do that. And that's a beautiful thing, because I don't really have people like that around me who really want to talk about it. We can talk about that for hours. Most people are like, okay, I give you 2 or 3 minutes and we're going to talk about something different, because they don't really care. But it's a deep passion for us to help. Like, you know, If you follow the Bible, that's great. If you don't, it's okay. But there was always a passage that was like, too much is given, much is required, you know? And I feel like whatever God gives to me, I'm making sure in some ways, shape, form, or fashion, we giving it back to other people. Like we're gonna help out in that manner. I can't see having wealth and not sharing. I can't see being in a better place, and all I think about is just me and my girls kicking it. And like you said, like you're like, you don't listen to City Girls. I do. I like my little ratchet music and whatnot, but I'm balanced. I like ratchet music, but I also like Mozart too. Like you can be a well-rounded human being because I listen to reggae. I listen to it all, classical music, baby. I get down with it. But that's just being a well balanced person that where you can go into any room and function. You got some people go into rooms and they're like, I just don't know what to say. Oh, I always got a conversation for you. You want some of this? You want to talk to me? Because I got something to say, and I'm sure you got something to say too. And let's talk about it. You don't have to be intimidated going into rooms talking to people. Just be yourself. People aren't being themselves authentically. So they're taking on personas that they see online. I mean, you even see it down to the podcast. Everybody's talking about the same stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, 100 years from now, are they still going to be talking about gender roles? 100 years from now, are we still going to be talking about passport bros and foolishness like that? Like, God, like at some point, some of the stuff that we're talking about is so primitive, especially for our community. Stuff is so trivial. It's not that serious, not that deep. You find somebody, you talk about what works for you in your relationship, and you guys do it. There is this need to be like, we all have to have a uniformed approach when we date and in love. We don't have to have a uniformed approach. And I was listening to this guy yesterday, and he was talking about some dudes talking about guys are simping in relationship with their women. It's called being in love. Maybe that's something you never experienced. You say, I'd rather be out with my homeboys, on a Friday night than to be home with my girl. So do you have a crush on your friends? I mean, life requires balance, right? So it's totally fine to spend time with your boys. It's totally fine, to have time with your girls. It's called balance. Oh, he went and bought her flower. He out here simping. It's called a relationship. Two-way street reciprocity. Because we don't tell women who make their husbands dinner or buy a gift for their boyfriend that, sis, you out here simping. Those same people who talk about a man being corny will turn around and be like, oh, because my girl, she holding it down for a player. You know what I'm saying? She always take care of the king. Because she loves you. And I don't see why. To be honest, with your flawed way of thinking, you don't deserve to be loved by anybody. I don't even know if your mother should like you. So you think that you're supposed to be loved and appreciated, but that woman doesn't deserve those flowers. That woman doesn't deserve,
Yeah.
your time. Oh, okay, yeah, because she called me up and I ain't calling her back. I'll call her in 4. I ain't tripping off of her. You don't have to. Somebody else will be tripping off of her very soon.
Mhm.
And you can't neglect what you have. It's like putting energy into creating a garden and then telling the gardener you simping because you outside putting fertilizer and water on it. You're making it grow. When you're in a relationship, you make things grow. But yeah, people aren't coming out being very authentic. They're not really having their own experiences. They're really basing their life off of what other people are saying. And I'd be looking at comments and stuff, and I'd be like, does anybody have an original thought of their own, or is this all kind of like regurgitated information? Y'all, everybody throwing up the same stuff. Okay, I'll eat it again. No, no, no. It's okay to think outside the box. It's okay to be like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work for us.
Right.
In relationship, there's no one size fits all. You get with your partner and you guys figure out what works good for you.